I need to have something in the morning that I'm on purpose inputting the right things to give me clarity, direction, purpose, and peace, as if I'm sailing into a storm that I can just be calm as day. And then I need to audit at night how well the day went, and then not let it bleed into the next day. All right, week 3 here in May. Here we go. Super excited for this one. Obviously, I say that for every episode, but these are really good. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on real estate trainers and real estate coaches, on sales coaches, sales trainers, and a lot of the times it's just, like I've said before, it's so random. There's podcast episodes and people talking for 2 hours on different topics. It's like, no, what are realtors struggling with? What are you struggling with? I always send out a Q&A through email, or I reach out to you guys in the DMs on Instagram, or I ask you here on YouTube, what would benefit you? What should I talk about? And this topic, I'm telling you, is a massive issue with a lot of you, or a lot of those that are struggling. Or if you're rocking and rolling, this will help you go even faster. And it has to do with 2 routines. It has to do with your morning routine, and it has to do with your nightly routine. I'm going to break both of those down today. I just created 2 brand new ebooks that I'm going to give out today. Make sure to watch for the keyword. I'll give those out to you through text. Just make sure you comment the keyword down below and why you want it, and then I'll shoot you a message and we'll get those over to you. But those 2 ebooks on top of this episode ideally will help you solidify these 2 systems, these 2 routines in your life. Because if you've read Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about how we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the standard of our systems. If you think of Olympic athletes that go to the Olympics to run the 100-meter dash, everybody that's on that line, they're all trying to get first place. No one's there going through all that training to get second place. No one does it. They all want first. But then why does only one person, one athlete, get first? And the margin is so tiny. It's because of their systems and routines the past 4 years. In real estate and in sales, I'm seeing this like crazy right now. And I've seen it with all the realtors that I've trained that have become top producers. They get really good at these 2 things. Or a lot of those that are falling out, they're just not listening and they're not willing to do these 2 practices that will help blow up their business. Where did I get these 2 from? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's episode. I'm going to break down both of the new ebooks. We're going to talk about the books that I would go recommend reading so that you conceptually get behind this idea. Because remember, Tony Robbins talks about how in order to become a world-class master at something, you've got to get good at 3 things. 1 is you cognitively have to understand what's being taught. You then have to do it so that you're emotionally connected. And then the process has to be broken down to the ridiculous in its simplest form. So there's no path of resistance so that you can do as much of this as possible to become a master at it. So that's what we're going to break down in today's episode. So super excited for you. Make sure you grab out your notes. We're going to do a bunch of activities together. And by the end of this, I'm hoping that you're mentally behind the idea of these 2 routines. You understand why they're important, how to do both of them. You reached out for both ebooks. Make sure each ebook is in separate comments here on this video. That way I can get them out to you. Before we do that though, if you're following along, you've watched the last 2 videos, which if you haven't, go back and watch. Remember, each month these videos go in order. So the first video we talked about in this month was on mentors. There's so much cloudiness in sales and real estate. There's so many quote unquote gurus in this industry. Yet 74% didn't do a deal last year. It was pretty crazy. So I talked about who I would pay attention to, who I'd listen to. Last week's episode, we went over how to get your next 5 clients the simplest and easiest way, and then how to increase your close ratio by 39%. Incredible videos. In both of those, we talked about the new book that we're reading and the book club. If you want, if this is the first video you're watching and you still haven't got the new book club pamphlet, the new book club ebook, then comment down below, education is important. That's the keyword. Education is important. And I'll respond to you and then shoot me a text. Most of you have my cell phone number, but make sure you comment first and I'll get you the ebook so you can follow along with the book club. So this month we're going over Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Make sure you grab this and don't get behind. Prioritize your education. Success leaves clues. This industry is so easy when you go and read the right books. You develop the right skills And that allows you to go faster to help more families and put more money in your bank account. All right, so let's jump into this. So why are we talking about routines? Again, think of that example with the athletes at the Olympics. The biggest issue with salespeople, entrepreneurs, those that are 1099 independent contractors, real estate agents, is that they're banking and focusing too much on the everyday emotions. They don't have anything that stabilizes it. Imagine you're in a boat and there's a lighthouse. That lighthouse gives you some type of anchoring point so you know where you're at. Or think of like electrical posts that go down to keep something within the cage from leaving that area, and you put all these different electrical posts down. That's what you're doing with your routines, is you're anchoring the beginning of your day and the end of your day. And you're not allowing each day to bleed into the next. Because most of you have probably experienced this where you have a bad day. That becomes 2 bad days, which becomes a bad week, sometimes a bad month, bad quarter, bad year. It's very easy. It's a slippery slope to go from here to here to here. And it happens just like that. So because you're an independent contractor, you've got to audit often. You have to make sure that you're not too far off the path to go and achieve your goals. A lot of you have followed my channel for a while, and you know that I talk about this example of an airplane leaving from Salt Lake City to New York City. If that airplane is off by 6 inches, this small, you're either going to end up all the way north in Minnesota or all the way south down in Texas. That's all it takes, 6 inches. And in your business, it's the same thing. If you're off by this much, compounded over time, you're going to be in big trouble. It's a lot harder to come back from being off than just staying the course. Why am I so passionate about this? Because one of the first books that I read in my entrepreneurial career in sales was Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect. And he's the author of Success Magazine. And he's got a part in the book, and he talks about inputs in, outputs out. And it's one of the best explanations, in my opinion, in regards to how to become a peak performer. Because a lot of you have heard the quote that I often reference from Tony Robbins. And he talks about how oftentimes the difference between peak performance and low performance isn't skill set. It's really not. Like real estate, sales, it's pretty easy. Just talk to people, have conversations, close the deal. Like it's pretty simple when you break it down. But what happens is you're not focusing on the systems that will maintain your emotional state. And so you get off. So anyways, Tony Robbins talks about how it's the difference between peak performance and low performance isn't that skill set. It's usually your state of being, and it's your mindset. Casey Baugh, a mentor of mine that I've had for a long time, he talks about, or he said once, that the biggest driver to performance and behavior is our personal view of our identity, who we think we are. It's very hard for us to act in contrast to the identity that we give ourselves. So again, you've got to have 2 stabilizing posts in your schedule that allow you to audit you as your greatest asset and your business, and make sure you're not too far off. So if you haven't read this book, go grab it. It's towards the end, and he talks about input, garbage in, garbage out. And he's got an activity that you can download. The next section is don't drink dirty water. It's just an incredible part of the book. And he says, if you want your body to run at peak performance, you have to be vigilant about consuming the highest quality nutrients and avoiding tempting junk food. If you want your brain to perform at its peak, you have to be even more vigilant about what you feed it. Are you feeding it constantly with negative news or mind-numbing TV shows? Are you stuffing your head full of BuzzFeed gossip, insane social media, or TikTok videos? The input you ingest has a direct and measurable impact on your productivity and outcomes. And so again, it's so important to understand that inputs and outputs. So I need to have something in the morning that I'm on purpose inputting the right things to give me clarity, direction, purpose, and peace. As if I'm sailing into a storm, that I can just be calm as day. And then I need to audit at night how well the day went, and then not let it bleed into the next day. And so go get this book. This is an incredible breakdown of how and why these two habits are so important. Now, if you haven't done a morning routine, that's okay. I've got these 2 ebooks, and these ebooks come from all of these books. These are the most influential books that I've read over the course of my life that have helped me understand the importance of a morning routine and a nightly routine. The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, probably one of the first books that I ever read, and it just talks about being efficient. And one of the things he mentions in here, going from a 9 to 5 to only having to work 4 hours a week, is just about being efficient. And how do you be efficient? You focus on the things that actually need to get done. You write them out on a list, you target them in the morning, and you work until they're done. Something Alex Hormozi talks about as well. But in the morning routine, you've got to get very focused on what needs to be accomplished that day. And that's why you'll see in the ebook, I talk about having a daily top 10 target list that you need to go hunt down. The other book is the 5 a.m. Club. This one's incredible. This will help you break down the importance and the benefits of getting up early, prioritizing yourself, getting focused for the day. And then this is where the whole practice, the whole ebook comes from. It's Miracle Morning. If you want the ebook, in the comments, comment Miracle Morning and why you want this ebook. And I'll send you over the breakdown of my morning routine, the morning routine that's taught in here, and what I train realtors and salespeople on. Again, it's so important that you get really good at focusing on the things that will actually help your business. If you've heard of the Pareto principle before, it's the 80-20 rule. What 20% of activities can I focus on that will give me 80% of the results I want? You don't have to do everything, but having a stabilized morning routine will help you focus and, again, be at peace and have intention for your day. And remember, like the real estate industry, it's basically coming down to who can pay attention and who can do it the longest. There's a training that I gave recently to a bunch of salespeople up in British Columbia, and we were talking about this. And there was a quote that I read from Alex Hormozi on the ability to just pay attention and not get distracted. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And it talks about, my father used to tell me a focused fool can accomplish more than a distracted genius. So your most valuable asset isn't your time, it's your attention. A man with time and distractions will always lose to a man with a deadline and a singular focus. It's never been easier to be successful than it is today. It's just always been easier to be distracted. So see how it becomes a game of eliminating your distractions and building systems to help you avoid those, and other systems to stay focused on the path. These are those that win. And so again, your morning routine, that's what it does. This helps you stay focused because you're starting your day and you're creating a life by design. You're creating your day spiritually before it's done physically. In the book of Genesis in the Bible, that's what it talks about, the law of 2 creations. Everything's created spiritually, then it's created physically. So you got to get in the divine, godly practice of prepping your day and designing it spiritually in the morning before you actually get to work and start going. This will help you maintain focus over time. Your nightly routine is to help you audit and calm down and regulate your emotions. The morning is to really just get you to pay attention. So let's break this down. If you have the ebook, you reached out and got it, and now you're replaying this, good for you. Remember to comment Miracle Morning and why you want it, and then I can get you this ebook. So in the ebook, let's break this down, and then we'll go to the nightly routine one. So in the ebook, it talks about the Savers program. The Savers program is an acronym that's broken down by the author of Miracle Morning. It talks about how you sit in silence, you have affirmations, visualization, you exercise, you read, and then you scribe. This practice done over the course of 3 hours will help you, again, develop the foundation for your day. So in the packet, you can see that there's a morning routine checklist. Prep the night before. Having a successful morning routine starts the night before, which we'll talk about. Having a cold shower, a glass of water. Learning to put yourself first. Learning to coach yourself right out of the gate. Because if you do the hardest things in the morning, then prospecting and working throughout the day is not the hardest thing on your schedule, and it actually becomes pretty easy. Avoiding your phone. This is a practice that Ed Milet talks about. Do not touch your phone until you're done with your morning routine. because then you're allowing inputs from other people and they're telling you what to think and you get distracted. So make that a non-negotiable to turn that off. Then make your bed. Have a win. Start your day with a win. Make your bed. There's actually a book on that, but it'll teach you to have control over your morning and start with a win. Start your Savers program. Text 3 people positive texts. So again, the universe will give you what you give. So put 3 things into the universe. Go think about 3 people that you could text a good message to, and then that karma will come back tenfold into your life. Then write out your top 10 goals. So I'm going to, again, get focused and have attention and purpose. And I'm going to write out my top 10 goals for life for the next couple of years and for that day. Then I'm going to write out my daily schedule and end with a prayer. I am a big believer that God is invested in you. God is invested in your overall happiness. And that means your work. And he understands what you're going through. So involve him. So I will always end with a prayer. But in the packet, you'll see what the daily planner looks like, the key indicators, the top 10 goals, what you should focus on. And it also gives you a checklist of your non-negotiables that you check off at the end of the day. So again, if you want that, comment Miracle Morning so that we can get that out to you. No pilot, no captain of a boat, no commander of an army is going to go into the next mission, the next destination without a map. Too often, salespeople and realtors are starting their day without purpose. There's no intention, and they're not regulated. They're not in a state of peace and focus and confidence, and their self-esteem isn't high. And that comes from having a good morning routine. The second one is your nightly routine. Again, I have another ebook that I want to give to you. So go ahead and comment night owl. The word is going to be night owl and why you want this. And so make sure you comment that. I'll respond to you. If you have my cell phone, after you comment, make sure to text me. If you don't have it, I'll put my number here below. That way you guys can reach out. So the nightly routine, this really comes back to that airplane example. I know we've talked about this before, but if you're leaving from Salt Lake to New York and that airplane pilot is off by 6 inches, you're either going to end up in Minnesota or all the way down in Texas. Don't do that. Your nightly routine is meant to audit your day. Audit you. How are you doing? And then audit your business plan. Did the needles get moved or did they not? Was I focused or was I distracted? Who did I help? What are my blessings? And how can I get better? You need to do an audit. There's a great book called The CEO Excellence by the McKinsey Institute. And they talk about how they would go and interview the top CEOs that were crushing it. And why are they different from the CEOs that were going bankrupt? And a lot of the CEOs that were crushing it, they had audits more often. They had third-party companies come in and audit their business and give them feedback more often so they could make more pivots. Your nightly routine, that's the purpose, is to do an audit so you don't get too far off track. That's the first goal. The goal is to do an audit, to forecast the next day. What do I have coming? Check your schedule. Remember, pull down the anxieties, because anxiety comes from the unknown, not having control over that. So control it. Figure out what you got tomorrow. Put it on your schedule, map it out so that you're not worried or going to bed stressed. The second part of your nightly routine, if you have the packet, you can pull it up, is to calm yourself down. You got to calm yourself down. If you go to bed anxious, you're going to wake up anxious. And it's this vicious cycle over and over again. So go to bed with a routine that allows you to calm down. For me, I'll take a warm shower. Go look at all the studies on taking a warm shower before bed. I have a heavy blanket. We turn the AC on in our house so it's a little bit colder at night while we're sleeping. I also have the lights dimmed at a certain time. I have the Alexa kicked on at night, and that plays a certain playlist that is kind of like Pavlov's dog, if you know that experiment, and how there was something that cued the dog to salivate. It's the same thing with nightly routine. I have to tell my brain time to calm down. Just like a car gets turned off, just like a phone, computer gets turned off, you got to start to turn off your system, your body. And so do something that calms you down. If you're in the stage of life where you're staying up late, you're goofing off, you're watching movies, you're playing video games, and you're not productive in that transitional period, then that's where you get stuck. And that's a pretty dangerous, slippery slope. So do those two things. Audit your day, forecast tomorrow, and then have a routine to calm yourself down. One thing that's so important too is have a gratitude journal. Remember, where attention goes, energy flows. One of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins that I always quote. And if you're focusing on gratitude, things that you're grateful for, blessings, situations where God has reached into your life and he has signed his name to remind you that he exists and that he's your father and loves you, then all your attention will go on that. Remember, everything that is good in life, all the positive things are just as available as all the negative things in life. People can react positively or negatively to one situation. You can get in a car accident and you can think how blessed you are, or you can focus on the afterlife, having knowledge that you'll see each other again, or you can be completely devastated and it blows up your life and you go way out in left field. Same experience, different outcome, because the meaning that you give to it, that comes from focusing on things that you're grateful for, having a gratitude journal. So reach out and get this ebook. There's lots of good tips in here. It'll help you have a good nightly routine so that you can audit your business more often and that you're helping yourself regulate your emotions. Because, and we'll end on this, but Lewis Howes has a great quote. He interviewed on one of his podcasts a brain surgeon. This brain surgeon had done thousands of brain surgeries and had a PhD in brain surgery. So he knew the brain really well. And Lewis Howes asked him, hey, like, what one thing do you think humans, like what one characteristic do you think humans are lacking? What do they not have? And he said, emotional regulation. A lot of people just don't know how to regulate their emotions. So I would invite you, if you're listening to this, to jot down your morning routine and your nightly routine and ask yourself, are you having effective morning routines and nightly routines to regulate your emotions? If you're not, go get Miracle Morning. Apply the Savers program. For me, I wake up at 4:15. I do a cold shower. I have a glass of water, a probiotic, celery juice. Then I'm in my office. I meditate, read the scriptures, pray. Then I'm off to the gym. I listen to a podcast, YouTube video, something sales oriented to sharpen my brain. And all of this, I'm not on the phone. Then I get back. I finish my scripture study, do my gratitude journal, write out my top 10 goals for the day and who I'm going to work with, who I'm going to bless, pull out my schedule, get dialed in, look at my vision board, business plan. And then by about 8:30, I'm with my kids playing for 30 minutes. I wake them up, we have breakfast, we talk, and then we have scripture study as a family, we pray. And then at 9 o'clock, I'm working. And that for me provides stability and peace. And then my nightly routine after my kids go to bed, that's the cue. If you want to learn the habit of having a nightly routine, go read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and he'll talk to you about how to build a habit. But besides that, that's the cue that then gets me to go do my audit, forecast the next day, and then start calming down. If this video was helpful for you, then drop a comment, make sure you get both the ebooks, like and save this, and share it to somebody else that you know would benefit so that they're not banking their business on their emotions. Manage the systems, not the emotions. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. Make sure you turn on the notifications because you're gonna wanna get reminded when next week's episode comes out. I went out and knocked with realtors out in Orlando, and I reminded myself that there are things that you forget if you're not actively knocking. There's a lot of coaches out there that proclaim to know how to train on door knocking, and they can't because they're not doing it. But when you do it, there's little tiny things that are like, oh, that made me efficient. That helped me close more deals. That helped me get more referrals. Next week's episode, we're going to dive into all of that. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that you don't miss it. There's going to be 2 ebooks that I'm going to give out that will help you become a really good door knocker and will help you pull a ton of referrals when you're prospecting door to door. So make sure you don't miss that one.